We are going to have a look at the Q-Skills Team Support module. This module guides teams through the problem-solving process. We have selected the DMAIC version, but the procedure applies equally well to PDCA or whatever other process that is being used. At the top here we see the methodology wheel. We can step through this wheel directly. On the right we have the flowchart for the problem-solving process. This can be used interactively. For example, if I click on this here, I can move through this flowchart interactively. Alternatively, if we just go back to the start, we can follow the usual procedure and just answer each question as it's presented. The flowchart on the right here will reflect our choices, as will the problem-solving wheel up the top here. So let's just click continue. Firstly, have you chosen a project where you want to improve quality? Let's say yes. Do you know enough about your problem? In other words, has the problem been fully defined? Let's just assume that we have defined the problem thoroughly. What type of problem are you working on? We'll say in this instance it's a flow process. Now let's just assume we're part of a team and the team is gathered together solving a particular problem, and as it happens a couple of members of the team have forgotten how to create a flowchart, and there may even be someone that doesn't know how to. Well, what we can do is to click on this icon here and it takes us to the relevant section of Q-Skills, so people can actually access the training in the context in which they learnt it. We've now been taken to the training section of Q-Skills and the section on flowcharting, and we've moved to the example on flowcharting, where we look at an example of a typist creating a letter, and the system is going to show us how to create a flowchart for that. The first step in the process is to create a letter, so we click type letter and the first step is shown. The second step is to make a decision, and a decision icon is shown on the flowchart. We then create the document, and all these symbols are the ISO standard symbols, and the final step is to file it. In the next section we have an exercise where we create a flowchart for ourselves. But let's just click the button at the top left and it'll take us back to where we were in the team support module. We've had a review, and now suppose the team wants to actually create a flowchart. So what we do is click on the Draw Flowchart button, and it takes us into the flowcharting module, where we'll create a new flowchart. We'll give it a name, and it'll take us on to Draw a Flowchart. We've jumped into the Q-Skills Draw Flowcharts area, and we're going to create a simple flowchart. So first of all we add a step, then we add a decision, and we're going to add an end shape. Now if we'd made an error of some sort in this flowchart when we attempted to save it, Q-Skills Validity Checker would automatically detect the errors. We're just going to save it as it is, and then we can jump back to the Team Support module by clicking on the button at the top left. We've now jumped back to the Q-Skills Team Support module, and we can see where we are in the flowchart. The next step is to collect data on the most likely causes to the problem. We select the type of data that we're using, and let's just select variable. As we did with the flowcharter, we can jump in for a review into the Q-Skills training, or we can draw various charts. Does the data that we've collected validate the cause? And of course there may be other causes. We have solution analysis, and finally we should document the new process, and to do that we can use the Q-Skills documentation generator.